Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today we're excited to have John Fenton, also known as the CEO Sensei. After a remarkable career at BDO, John has now dedicated his expertise to empowering leaders in accounting, law, and financial sectors. With his proprietary coaching process, John simplifies complex challenges into actionable steps, aligning leadership actions with core values. Join us as we explore his techniques for cultivating gratitude, vision, and smooth operation to transform professional environments. John, welcome to Protea Conversations.
Thank you so much, Zane. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, it's good to see you and have you on the show. I know we met going on about a year now, just a little short of it, and it's always been interesting to be around you and learn from you and your insights. So I'm really excited for the conversation today.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm excited to share.
Yeah, I knew you had an interesting career, and I'm always excited about what you do now, and I love reading, what you post on LinkedIn and the various posts you share. But I think it was sort of lost on me that you had this whole, lifetime career, before the leadership executive coaching style. And I knew you'd been there, but when you get into it, oh wow, that was it was a real career. It was,
Right.
30 plus years in the accounting space. And I think it's a great place to start because, I think sometimes it's lost on people that accounting is the start and end for everyone. But sometimes it could just be the step one to greater things. So just sort of share with us that early career. How did you get into it, and what made you stick around for over 30 years?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. It wasn't a straight line. It wasn't even an inclining line. It was some starts and stops and different experiences. I was in the accounting program. I played college football, so I was in the accounting program, which most guys don't do because it's very strenuous. I mean, we're talking Division I football, so it's a lot of time commitment, right? And but I had a mentor who's one of my roommates. His dad was in accounting and everything. He said, you ought to go for an accounting degree. So we both went to the accounting program. I was fortunate enough to actually work on my MBA and finish my MBA while I was still playing football at the University of Miami. So that was a really great opportunity for me. The only people hiring in 1981, I'm dating myself, 1981 were CPA firms. Economy was crazy. There was a lot of unemployment. Inflation was super high. And I went to work for R3 Anderson in Houston, Texas. I was there a little over a year and a half. And then I joined the firm that I was with for over 30 years, BDO USA. And we started a family in Houston, and we decided to move back to our home state, Florida, and the Miami area. And we did that when our daughter was born. And I actually jumped out of public accounting and went to work for a Fortune 1000 company. And I was there about 6 months. And I said, I hate this. I hate this because I saw guys and gals doing the same thing for 30 years. And I said, this is not me. I'm very driven, very focused on achieving and growing. And I could just see myself getting bored really fast. And I was bored. And the opportunities there that presented to me weren't the opportunities that I really wanted to pursue for my own career. So I came back to the firm in the Miami office and spent the rest of my career with BDO USA and moved around a little bit. I was in 4 different offices of the firm. So those were challenges in and of themselves. It was interesting. One of my colleagues, I'm still very close to my friends at BDO. One of my colleagues who was a managing partner in the Boston area said to me, gosh, you've been here over 30 years and all these management changes and leadership changes, and you survived all of it. That's amazing. Those are real life lessons there. I also experienced a little bit in college with 3 different head coaches, which is a whole nother conversation we could talk about. But I think for me, it was what drew me to public accounting was the fact that I could see the path to leadership and to ownership, right? Yeah. So I wanted to be a partner. I was very driven that way. And I put in the hours and did all that stuff and traveled and moved my family around a few times. Usually a family consideration was part of that move. So I was getting closer to family each move. And so that was part of it, part of my values, right? But it really turned into a great opportunity. I was last running the Atlanta practice for the firm, and we doubled the size of the firm in a very short period of time, less than 4 years. Really upgraded the quality of the clients and upgraded our staff and talent of our staff. And it was really an interesting time in the early 2000s. And much like we're seeing right now in the world with labor shortages and less people in the profession and the growth that's happening in CPA firms. But to answer your question, it was just something I knew. It was a path that I wanted to follow to be an owner, to be an owner.
So I can't let you pass the D1 sport, the football reference. So give us a quick breakdown of that career. I mean,
oh my gosh,
a mini career in itself.
Yeah, so at the Division I and Division II levels, I mean, it's even more so intense now. But it's a full-time job, right? I mean, you have practices every day, meetings every day. You got games on the weekends. Even in the springtime, you've got spring football and training sessions and all that kind of stuff. And so it's pretty much a full-time job. I really, before high school, I didn't even play football. I kind of fell into it. I really wanted to be a fullback. I wanted to be Larry Zonka of the Dolphins was my idol. And about 3 days into practice in my freshman year in high school, I said, no, you're an offensive lineman. Go over there. So, but I really did well. I was a top prospect in the state of Florida coming out of high school, and I had many options to attend universities, Division I, full scholarship, and decided to stay closer to home, University of Miami, which was not a popular choice because our program was like 3-8. The first 2 years we were 3-8. Team was not very good. The experience of that, though, and thankfully, my last year we were 18th in the country and had won 9 games, and we're in the Peach Bowl, which set the stage for about 3 years later was the first national championship team at Miami. And I kind of feel like my class and the guys that I played with, and even the younger players who were on that team 3 years later, we kind of set the stage for future success. And a lot of it's coaching. And I've always been a student of sort of leadership, right? Like what makes a really good team and what makes a lousy team. Obviously, talent's important, right? But also leadership at the top and the head coaches and being consistent, having discipline, accountability, also building trust in the organization. And so I was on, like I said, I was on some really crappy teams, okay? Like 3-8, 5-6. And my last year, we were a championship team, won the Peach Bowl, and 18th in the country, which is a high honor, and top 20 team. And even in high school, we went from a 500 ball club, basically 6-4, 6-4, 5-5 team to a state champion, undefeated state champion. And the difference was we bonded as a team. We bonded and we trusted each other. Not that we were all best friends. We built a level of trust, and the coaching staff was really excellent, right? That's a lot of it, right? But also we learned, and we didn't approach everything like we knew everything, right? That's one of my secret weapons, I think, was just, I was like a sponge. I just wanted to learn everything I could, right? With no preconceptions about how things should be, And those lessons really carry over into life, teamwork and dealing with struggle and dealing with issues, dealing with adversity, overcoming injuries. I had a few of those along the way, and really putting myself out there to be the best that I could be to help my teammates.
Oh, that's great. In a couple of notes, it makes me feel good that I am anti-letting my second and third graders play tackle football, which is, our town has a 2 years in a row state champion high school team.
Oh,
so got very popular. San Marino in Nevada got very, very popular. And, the elementary school program is all of a sudden big again, which I'm like, let them play soccer, let them run around, have some fun. They're not learning much. I mean,
right.
At that age.
They're learning about teamwork and just developing their own personal skills.
Yeah.
I think some great athletes and they really excel in other sports, but they can carry that over to football or basketball, whatever, baseball, whatever the sport might be. And it's just finding that lane, that niche you do really well at. In high school and, we really worked hard at it in college. I never anticipated I was going to go to college, honestly. Growing up, if you knew me as a kid, you would never guess I'd played high school football, let alone college football. And here I was a top 20 recruit in the state and a blue chip prospect. It was way before they had the star rating system they have now. But I loved it and I reveled in it and I worked hard at it. And I worked hard in the off season. I love the discipline of it. And it's just something I didn't even think about. I just did it, right? I just was totally immersed in it. And kind of that zone of, there's a book out there called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's been out for a number of years. It's about finding your zone of genius. And for me, in high school and college, it was really playing at a high level in football.
And you played on the O-line, so you really had to love it to stick around because that is no fun of a position.
Well, the good thing about I was the center, first of all. So
A little bit better, I guess.
Job one, snap the ball to the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Do it, proper timing. But we knew the advantage was we knew the snap count. The other team. Now a lot of teams would try to guess at it, right, and try to jump. But
Mhm.
you're the aggressor, you're offense, right? And so I love playing. I actually played two ways for a little bit in high school. I played defensive end and offensive tackle. But when I was maturing up into the varsity level, I said, no, just be offensive line. I had a choice, offense or defense. I chose offensive line, which is probably a good move for me. Although I think the edge rushers today, I think, are amazing. I love it. Tight
Yeah.
ends, I think, are really cool. I used to have a debate with one of the tight ends, and I used to debate who's the best athlete on offense, the tight ends or the centers. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
we had a lot of fun with that. But
yeah, very interesting. Not to like pre-jump any of the conversations we're going to have a lot further along, but I'm assuming you learned a ton about leadership and your leadership style and some values in your leadership from playing such high-level sport.
no, absolutely. One was, I wasn't always really good at this, and it was a hard lesson for me because I think one of the lessons for me was I was a loner, really, in a lot of ways. I always had the idea I had to achieve everything on my own. On a team sport, you can't possibly do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to rely on other people. And I could have been a better teammate for sure. I cared about my teammates, but I didn't always show it. And some of that was just trying to overcome some injuries and things and I had to focus on me first to be able to
Yep.
play. I had some serious injuries along the way, but I was able to come back from them and play. And I think, the experience of, first of all, 3 different head coaches, 3 different systems, and the expectations of 3 different leaders, right? Different levels of commitment. I saw a lot of non-commitment by some of the guys I played with my first 2 years. And we kept upgrading the quality of the people coming into the program and the coaches. Each time we changed a coach, it was for the better. And I think that made a big difference. And also having a vision. I'm really keen on having a vision and purpose. And the one thing that stood out, my last coach, Howard Snellenberger, who passed away a few years ago, we won the first national championship at Miami. He was very clear. Here's the road we're going to follow. We're going to get to a bowl game, earn our way to a bowl game. Eventually, we're going to win a national championship. He did it in 5 years. That's vision, right?
Yeah.
It was very clear. We had a chart on the wall that showed our progress towards, the road. The goal was a bowl game, and then national championship later. And we had a big sign up in the locker room that depicted that. And I think having that visual reference and having it, sports is very clear, right? You want to be the champion. In business, it's a little bit fuzzier,
Yep.
right? I mean, champion at what, right?
Okay.
And I think where it carries over is let's be our best every day. Let's be at our best. So what does that mean? In business, it means build relationships. I could have done a much better job building relationships as an athlete, looking back on with hindsight. So relationships are so important. If you think you're in a numbers business in the accounting profession, guess what? You're actually in a relationship business.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's around people, culture, and relationships. Tom Peters, In Search of Excellence, co-author and author of many books about excellence. One of his latest books was Excellence Now, Extreme Humanism. And it's focusing on, we used to call soft skills,
Yep.
skills in that. It's really what he calls foundational bedrock skills. So what we used to think of soft is really hard because they're foundational, right? Having good relationships, having a thriving culture that's people oriented, because everybody on the team is how you're delivering your product or your services, especially in the accounting profession. And what we used to call as hard, like the hard numbers, org charts, forget the other one. Oh, strategic plans. I do strategic plans for clients, but strategic plans, they're soft because they can be subject to manipulation and change, right? They're always moving, right? So kind of flipping the script, if you will, around how we think about business and what's really important. And I think in the accounting profession today, there's so much concern about fewer people entering the profession. How do we retain our employees? I think we're really being forced now to really think about what is the culture and experience that our employees have so that we can nurture and grow to an apprenticeship model, younger people that hopefully one day want to be an owner or at least be a major contributor to the firm.
Yeah, it is a little different, and I'm glad it's a little bit different because, I feel sometimes I live in this world of like, it's all about the people, and people are like, oh, it's all about the results, right? And it's sort of like, yeah, but it is a bit of both. And I think the sports analogy is great because the vision is like lifting that trophy, right? And you're always working every single day towards it. And I know that's the best way, like when you're coaching a team, is how do we stick into the vision? Are we doing something today that will help us towards that trophy? If we're not, why are we even spending our time on it, right?
Exactly.
And that could be a conversation with the team about, holding each other accountable, being good teammates.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, technical skills. It could be running strategy. You
Mm-hmm.
can do all of that and you're working towards the same goal. And in business, I think it's the same thing.
Right.
A good, successful businesses, the ones that I look at, they understand who they want to be and what they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily, I want to be the greatest accounting firm in the world,
Right.
but they've got their definition of what great is and they're working towards it.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that do exceptionally well are the ones that just focus and continuously do tasks to work towards that ultimate vision.
Right.
And that's exactly the way you do it in sports. It is, there's a lot of great lessons in sports in terms of working a lot. And you obviously had a great example with a coach that was hyper focused. Like, this is the goal. We're going to be a national champion, and this is what we're going to do to get there.
Absolutely. And even, it's interesting, football, because it's a compressed time frame, right? You have 1 year, basically, right? Or one season, right? Now, it takes time to build successful teams the right way. So it doesn't happen overnight. But there's a sense of urgency because you got the next game, the next, championship that year, whatever. So it's very compressed. So there's a lot that goes on in that, right? Which is a high stress situation, which is fine because you choose very quickly about how you're going to perform. But the biggest thing I learned too in sports was, like you mentioned, it's the small things that matter. And where do you focus your attention? Like, where do you focus on? We were in a game, we were playing our arch rival. It was the last game of the season. We were down 21-0 at halftime. And we went in the locker room. And I can't even remember what the conversation was in the locker room. I don't think anybody broke any chairs or anything in there. So we came out in the second half. We had a great running back who played in the NFL for a number of years, O.J. Anderson, a great teammate. And we just put it on his shoulders, right, to carry us. And we ended up winning the game 22-21.
Wow.
What happened was we could have sat there and looked at the scoreboard all day long and said, oh my God, we're down 21 points. You got to put that out of your mind. It's like you can focus on the result you want, right? What you really need to focus on is what's the next best action to take right now? What's the next play, right? What's the next yard to gain, right? That sort of thing. So you bring it down to the immediate present moment, really, right? Where am I in the present moment? Am I really focused? And I'll be honest, a couple years later in my career, I was kind of feeling down going into one of our games, and my performance suffered from it, right? And I was kind of getting in my own way in that moment of, I'm not getting the recognition I should be getting and blah, blah, blah. And I did not have a great performance. And I shifted because I realized what I'd done to myself, right? And I think really being focused on what's the end game, what can I do right now in the present moment to make the team better, whatever that might be. It might be something small, really small, that can make a huge difference.
That's a great lesson. We quickly, it's lost on people a lot of time. When you start getting negative thoughts in your mind, whatever that is, feeling sorry for yourself,
right?
Feeling bitter towards somebody else, all of a sudden things do start to turn even more negative. And staying positive is important. But as the competitors that you're against that were 21-0 up, you also got to understand that you got to live in the moment right now as well and not get too overconfident, because I know you guys probably did a lot of things right, but I'm guessing they came out of that half thinking that game was done and rested on their laurels, and they contributed to that downfall as much as you guys, your winning spirit brought to it as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the dynamics of emotions. You see it in games now where the team's up big time in the first half and then they lose the second half, right? It happens a lot. And it's never losing focus, on what the objective is and what do I need to do right now, and not panicking about, we're not getting the result we want right now. And, sports is a lot about you try something and it works or it doesn't work, right? Same in business. You have some ideas, some initiatives, maybe some new markets or new products or services you want to introduce. Maybe they work right away, maybe they don't. So the question is, do you have the temerity and the vision to carry that to fruition? Or do you recognize early on it's going to be a failure and you pull the plug early too? That's right. So there's a real, takes a lot of finesse as a leader to understand where you at and where you and your firm are at in terms of those types of questions that happen day to day. Decision making is so important.
Let's move back to BDO. And you mentioned you liked the whole idea of there's a direct path. You understood the way to go about it. It was all easy. But it's still not an easy environment, right?
Oh, it's not easy at all. No.
There's
We're
a lot of politics at play. As much as the path is like, hey, this is what I need to do. Like you said, you had multiple leadership changes. I know BDO, I mean, when I sort of started in the accounting space, BDO wasn't a big thing in South Africa. Then all of a sudden they took it by storm. They came
Mhm.
in, they bought a bunch of firms, really showed up, and they've had multiple changes over the years. And I know that's just the way they've been a pretty dynamic firm
Mhm.
for clearly for a very long
Mhm.
time. How did you deal with it? How did you stay motivated? How did you stay on path?
Yeah, it's really interesting because the firm went through a lot of transformations as a culture of the firm in terms of who we served, right? And depending on which office you were in, you'd have a little more expertise in a particular area. So New York and Chicago area had a lot of several publicly held companies, that sort of thing. Over time, with the changes in the marketplace in the early 2000s, Anderson went out of business. Some other firms were struggling. Sarbanes-Oxley was kicking in, so they were casting off clients. So were great opportunities to grow our business, right? So we had to shift. And I think the big thing for me is, and it's so prescient today. I remember, I read an article earlier this morning about this too. Drives it home: resiliency and flexibility. So I think all the experiences of my life leading up to in my career and as a managing partner in a couple of different offices of the firm, including Atlanta, the last one, being resilient, being focused on where do we want to go, but staying true to your values, right? So there's some, I won't say ethical things that happened, but there were times where you had to make some decisions that are hard decisions, whether it's personnel related or, a client matter, right? And what kind of decisions are you going to make in that moment, right? Like where are you going to fall? And sometimes you have to make these decisions on the fly. And I always stayed grounded in, okay, this is what we're trying to do. I'm thinking about, first of all, the firm's position, potential liability. Knock on wood, I never got sued. Liability for the firm. Is it good for the firm? This decision about a new client, a client acceptance, is this good for the firm? So staying grounded in the values, right? Ethical values of myself and the firm that were consistent. You can kind of navigate these things. And you're not going to get every decision right. Definitely not going to get every decision right. And there were times where I was, criticized for making a decision that, one leader thought was not the right decision in the moment, but I think long-term it was the right decision for the firm. Mm-hmm. So, I was willing to, I had the courage to make those kind of decisions because I knew I was grounded in the values, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen, right? I had to have that leap of faith, if you will, that I would come through it okay either way. And it worked out. Obviously, I was there for 32 years and had at least three different leadership changes that I survived, as one of my partners pointed out. Again, just staying true to my values and also building relationships around the firm too. And pick up the phone and talking to people, human to human. I think it's so important. It's so important nowadays as well.
So a couple questions from that. You mentioned resiliency, and I always feel like that is an undervalued skill in people, but especially in accountants, right? It's very easy for people to drop their heads when things get a little tough or don't go their own way. How would you recommend people develop resiliency in their lives?
I think, first of all, you got to have a mindset that you're not going to quit. I'm not a quitter. Mm-hmm. My freshman year in college, going back to sports again, the whole coaching staff was fired at the end of my first season there. Huh. And they actually almost canceled the football program. They didn't, but they almost did. So I'm sitting on the bus after the coaches got fired the night before the last game. We're on a road trip. We're on the bus heading back to the airport. And I'm like, what do I do now? Well, something inside me told me to not quit and try to go transfer. Like everybody nowadays, like you guys can transfer every time a portal opens up, you can transfer multiple times, right? Yeah. It wasn't available to athletes back then, but I just felt like why did I go to the University of Miami? I saw a path where they had an opportunity for first of all, I want to make a difference. I can contribute to the program. They had a history of guys making it to the next level at the NFL, and they had a history of having good programs up until like a decade before I got there, right? So I felt there was an opportunity to help make things better and contribute to that, and hopefully get a shot at playing at the next level. And so it was closer to family, right? And so I made the decisions to go there, and I decided I'm not going to change. I'm not going to transfer. And I think just not being a quitter, right? Sticking it out. You can't predict what the future is going to be, right? Mm-hmm. Over time, you may have more information, so you can decide whether or not that was a good decision or not, right? in that moment. For me, it worked out. I mean, I'm not sure a lot of universities would have said, hey, I mean, the athletic director came to me and said, hey, what are you going to do next year? I had the 5th year. And I said, well, I'm in the accounting program. I'll stretch out my credits and finish in December, next December. And I'll get a job, public accounting firm in January. And he said, have you thought about getting your master's degree? And I never considered it. So he said, apply for the GMAT and then submit an application into the MBA program, which I did, and I got accepted. And that, I mean, that's amazing, right? I mean, I was able to play and finish my master's degree in a 12-month period while playing football, and had just gotten married and all that good stuff, and still compete at a high level, and really gave me something a lot of folks in the accounting industry didn't have, which was an MBA degree before they were mandating 5th-year requirements. And I mean, that's just a great opportunity. So sticking it out, and then we were ranked 18th in the country, et cetera. So, and a team that went on 3 years later, a 22-year run of being one of the top teams in the country. No one would have thought that, right? So I could have left and gone somewhere else, but you never know. The grass is not always greener, right? So sticking it out, I think, is a big part of it, and trusting your instincts, make decisions based on your values, and never wavering from those values.
You've spoken about values a lot, and it feels like it's a normal thing that everybody has a set of values that they live by, but I don't necessarily think that's probably that true. I think there's a lot more people running around not quite knowing what their values are. They've sort of got a sense of what's important to them, but they don't have that sense of core values that they use to run their daily life, focus in, like, this is what I believe in, this is how I'm going to operate. Values are important, and I know, most of the time, if you're working for somebody, you're going to be happiest when your values align.
Right.
But that's really hard to find that happiness if you don't know what your values are to start with. Do you have any advice for people on sort of identifying what's important to them, what their values are?
Yes, I think it's important to have some reflection time. This is a perfect time of year to do that. The end of one year, the beginning of the next. It's a great time. I actually have a process that I share with my clients around reflecting on the past year and what's happened, and what are the values, really calling out to yourself, what are the values that are most important to you, right? Do you value time with your family? Do you value honesty? Do you value trustworthiness? So the values, like if you were to take 10 leaders in history, they could be living, no longer living, they could be, superheroes, they could be comic strip heroes, whatever. But if you look at these leaders, these heroes, if you will, from different walks of life, and write down for each of those, so 10 people, male or female, real or unreal, living or no longer with us, what are some attributes? What are 10 attributes that you admire about that person? And what it does, it really helps you to reflect and think. Go through that process. What you'll find at the end of that process, I'll give you a little sneak peek as to what the outcome will be. You'll see some commonalities in those attributes, and those are their values. And those values align with what you really, truly admire. So you want to live to those values. And it's a real easy way to kind of forget about it. Don't focus on yourself, focus on others and what do you admire about them.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, most of those are going to resonate with you and what your values really are. And, write them down. Have them in a place where you can refer to them from time to time. Think about them. I'm a big believer in meditation and affirmations. We didn't talk about this, but part of my background is I'm a black belt in Tai Chi and also Jack Canfield Success Principles certified trainer. And it's really around envisioning what you want to accomplish and then start to take the small actions today that are going to make that happen. And part of that is really, as I mentioned, being true to your values and give yourself some space. Give yourself a few minutes. I wrote a book called 5-Minute Mastery. It's about spending 5 minutes a day to really reflect and focus on yourself. What are the values that you hold most dear? And what you'll really notice is if you're not aligned with the values of your company or your firm, you're going to feel it every day. You may not recognize it, but if your values aren't aligned, it's going to be like pushing a rock uphill. It's going to be a struggle every day, right? Whereas if things feel easy, even in hard times, things might feel easy in terms of, your progress in the firm, how you feel about your place in the firm, that sort of thing. That means most of the values are aligned. Not all of them, maybe, but most of the values are going to be aligned. And it's a place where you'd want to continue to work at and contribute to because they are aligned.
Yeah, I love that. That's the way of doing the exercise of sort of, focusing on other people that you really admire and seeing what they like. I think sometimes it's really hard for people to take the personal step of, looking inwards and saying, what matters to me? And, taking that out to a third party, I think it makes a big difference. I think it really does help the process. And I like that. So I'm somebody who's really clear with my values. I, look at them often and, really look at it. So I feel comfortable doing it. But if you are a little uncomfortable doing it, I think using John's method of going to a third party is really great advice. And I'd recommend everybody listening to go do it. I might just go do that exercise during this break as well to see if I'm really listening to what's happening in my head, or if it's maybe I'm slightly misaligned and need some adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And remember that values can change, and that's important. And that's why I think, you started with like, this is a good time of the year. You set in your calendar once a year, find an hour and sit down and do this exercise. It's good to understand what your values are, what's important to you at that time, because it'll help you set goals for the year advance. I don't like New Year's resolutions, but I love goal setting for the next year.
Sure, absolutely. One of the things I do with many of my clients is I have a VIP day, and we'll spend one day, immersive day, planning the next year. And part of it is, okay, what are the values that hold most dear, and what are the values you want to live by? What do you want to change? What do you want to add or subtract? And what do you want to increase? What do you want to double down on and focus on? And also, from the personal side, but also because we're humans, right? So there's many facets to us other than just hitting your numbers and in business and that kind of thing, but what's in your bank account, right? But also focusing on the numbers too, focusing on the financial side of things, focusing on your career, and really, again, taking a step back to reflect on those things and then decide what are the 3 to 5 significant goals I want to accomplish this year that are going to help me move down the path to further my career or my firm.
You've touched a lot on your actual coaching process. So let's talk about, how did you make this jump from, partner in a big CPA firm through to coach? How did that come about?
Well, thank you for that question. It's really interesting. So during my career, I had this idea that I wanted to be a coach for other people. And so an opportunity came to me where there was a person who helped CPAs and attorneys do marketing for their firms. And I was interviewing this coach and to see what she was about and to see if it would be a fit for some of our people. I said, I can see myself doing something similar to what she's doing. Maybe not in the same way, not so much marketing, working one-on-one with people, helping them. So actually I engaged her to help me, coach me, to experience it. And several of my partners and several of my senior leaders also used her services. I've always been one about focusing on relationships, one-on-one meetings and working with people, and really just contributing and helping people improve, be better at what they do. I mentioned along the way that I got into Tai Chi and became a black belt and a master in meditation. I actually taught Tai Chi and ran a center. When I retired, I took about a year or so and reopened a closed center and built it back up, and then stabilized it, and then they went and sold it. They sold it as a franchise to another person. But it was all about giving and sharing and being with people in a different way, obviously, in teaching martial arts and meditation. But it gave me a good foundation as well. So I'm always about trying to help other people. And the term master, really, all the master really means is not that I'm better than anybody. It just means I've gone a little bit further ahead than someone else has gone. Because mastery is something you never master it, like perfection, right? We can't be perfect. We're human beings. So mastery is really a continuous process, self-mastery, continually improving, continually taking a hard look at ourselves and saying, what could I do better? How could I be better here, right? As a leader, as a human being. And for me, that was really kind of a genesis of what really was important to me. Along the way, I had an opportunity to be a Vistage coach, a Vistage chair. Learned a lot through the Vistage program and started a group and then ran that group for about a year and a half. And then decided to double down on me and really focus on what I was doing to further my expertise in coaching. And I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching, strategic work sessions, really helping teams understand, where are they going, where are they headed, and how to get there. So for me, it was all about helping others. This came home to me. It's kind of like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose in life? I still want to be relevant.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, look, I live at a great lake and golf community. I can play golf. Well, I couldn't play every day. My knees won't allow that, but I can play golf pretty regularly and have a cocktail at 4 o'clock every afternoon. But that's not where I saw my life going.
Mhm.
I wanted to be relevant and make a difference, have a greater impact and influence in the industry, the accounting industry, and help leaders be better leaders, better human beings. And that really has driven me.
Do you think you got some of that passion from, managing teams at BDO? You know, building teams there, building groups up, leading people there. Like, did that sort of influence the decision to go into the coaching space?
Well, it influenced my decision to focus on accounting firms for sure.
Okay.
I think the fun of, to me it was all about, let's have fun, right? Let's do something really cool. Let's grow the business.
Yeah.
Let's improve our profits, like a game, right? So for
Mhm.
me, I think my sports background is what really led to that kind of mindset around it.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you, the hardest part of business is managing people. One of my clients said this to me about 2 years ago. She said, John, she was a brand new CEO of a CPA firm. She said, John, peopling is hard. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So it's getting, kind of getting a little messy sometimes with people and personalities, and everybody has different wants and desires and perspectives from their own life's experiences, right?
Mhm.
So being open to kind of find that common ground, that sort of thing. But really just connecting with people in a way that, hey, let's just achieve something really cool together. And what we achieved in Atlanta was we became one of the top 10 offices of the firm. That's really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
the office wasn't doing so great when I first got there. And sometimes luck falls into this, right? But it was a change in the marketplace, and opportunities were abounding to grow the firm dramatically, just like many firms are seeing right now, right?
Mhm.
There's work coming in the front door constantly. And so again, being flexible, being open-minded, and staying true to a vision. Where do we want to take our firm is really important. And I think for me, just having fun and building a team and the camaraderie of achieving something together is really cool.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And, you know, most people out there need a coach. I think there's tons of accounting people who are trying to run their own sort of practices or grow a firm or already in a firm and need some help. And
Mm.
there's a lot of need for it because, as an industry, we made a lot of mistakes over the years. But one of them, for lack of a better word, is the lack of focus on soft skills. I mean, they've always had, the training, but it's
Mm.
really just like, let's tick the box mandatory. We taught you how to time manage. We taught you how to talk to people. Like, it's always just really tick box stuff, and there's
Mm.
no real substance of it. And we definitely need more of that in the space.
Yeah.
John,
I
how would you explain your? Sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say that you mentioned ticking the box. I wrote an article for my newsletter once recently about, are you a check the box leader or are you a connected leader? Right? Are you just
Hmm.
checking the box, or are you building relationships, really meeting people where they're at, face to face, on Zoom to Zoom, whatever it might be, right? But
Yeah.
being connected to people and really just learning more about the human being, right? And understanding where they're coming from so that you can help be a better coach for them. That's really part of leadership, I think, is being a great coach for your teammates.
Yeah, I sometimes get told it's a little soft where I talked about making real human connections, building the trust, and you'll see that what you say to people, the way you act with people, what they'll do for you in times of need will be so significantly different if you really focus in on the relationship rather than, "Hey, Zane told me that I need to talk to these people once a month and I need to follow this form and check it out." Like, that's never going to be successful. It will do a job and will help, the overall process,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're not making sure relationships with the people or identifying when they're struggling,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody tells you, right? Everybody like, oh, I never knew they're struggling. Like, I promise you, there were telltale signs that they needed your help. There's even a good chance they asked you straight out, I
Mm-hmm.
need help, and you missed it because you hadn't taken the time to build the connection. So
Right.
you didn't understand the subtle change in tone, facial features, body language. If you get stuck in the tick the box, and you can, tick the box is relevant at times. There are tasks that just have to tick the box and you get it done with. But if you're ignoring that connected leadership portion, as you put it, it's just never going to work out.
That's very true. It's almost following your intuition. You probably know in a conversation something doesn't feel right. Something in your body telling you this, right? I learned this from the martial arts. Something in your body's telling you this is something that doesn't feel right. Maybe it's in my gut, maybe it's in my shoulder, whatever it might be. And so when you have that feeling, it's like, okay, ask the next question, right? And keep asking questions. Not that you want to be intrusive, but you really want to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then listen. That's the big thing too. I mean, I could talk all day long, but what I've had to learn over the years was I have to step back and really just ask a few questions and then listen.
Yeah, like we just as a group read Super Communicators, and there's a lot about asking the next question, making sure you're actually listening, and pushing a bit deeper, even if it's uncomfortable for you, because that's the only way you can really understand what that person is trying to tell you. John, tell me a little bit about your coaching philosophy. What's your style of coaching? How do you approach, coaching an individual or a group or a team?
Absolutely. Well, it's very customized depending on what that person needs. But a lot of it is built around goal setting and then I won't say holding them able that they can accomplish I hold myself accountable to be the accountability partner for them to achieve their goals, right? But I also want to hold them able to achieve their success.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at all aspects. There's like 7 or 8 aspects of being human, right? Different parts of our lives. We start with that kind of a self-assessment, I have a leadership assessment tool. And we basically go through, okay, what are your goals for this year and the 5 years out, let's say, right? What's your end game? Like, where do you want to be? What's the legacy you want to leave? That sort of thing. So it gets people to go way out in the future and come back to the present. The philosophy, though, is really to start as a starting point to build a foundation. And I call that, it's really around integration and understanding who we are as a leader. And so monthly we meet, we'll do it like a 1-day intensive, a full day, VIP day. Then we'll meet, depending on the amount of time the individual has, the commitment they want to make. It can be a 6-month or 12-month program. And we'll meet for up to 2 hours each month, either in person or virtually. The VIP day, I like to generally do that in person. And so we build a foundation off of that, and we focus on what are the goals you want to accomplish. We'll lay out 3 to 5. You don't want any more than that, no more than 3 to 5 goals, because quite honestly, you're not going to get them all done. And be laser focused on that. And then checking in monthly. Okay, what's happening in this particular issue? So a lot of it's strategic. I mean, from time to time, there's going to be tactical things that are going to come up, particular issues with a particular person or a client situation or something that's bubbled up, a potential maybe a lawsuit or something that's come up. So being, kind of bringing my 40 plus years of experience in life and business in athletics and all that good stuff to help them be the best leader they can be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much focused on being in the present moment. Where do you want to go? What do we need to do right now in the present moment to help you achieve those goals? And then what are the hot button issues of that day or that week or that month that are really troubling you? And what can we do to maybe shine a light on that? Think differently about what's happening, because we all have our own preconceptions and our own thoughts based on our own life's experiences. So again, I'm sort of that, person that can kind of call BS, if you will, if I hear something doesn't sound authentic to the person, or to help them reflect and say, well, maybe you could think about this a little differently. So as I like to say, think differently, achieve more.
Okay, so a lot of helping them set those goals, holding them accountable, and then, sort of a little bit of shepherding, keeping them on the path.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
And I incorporate, from time to time, if it makes sense, some Tai Chi or some meditation.
Yeah.
I'm all about when if you're confident in your ability, believing in yourself, you're coming from a good place based on values, and you are able to achieve a level of calm no matter what's going on around you. Okay. I mean, I remember having to make some tough decisions and staring out the window thinking, which way do we go with this? Like, what do we do here? Right. And I always kept coming back to reflecting on what are my core values? What's most best for the firm or for this person in the firm in the situation? And I think so having that sense of calm and self-confidence and clarity, because there's so much noise out there, right? So being clear about what it is you want to accomplish, grounding yourself in your values, taking time to reflect and step back gives you that space to be more calm, to really make better decisions as a leader.
Yeah, really interesting. What are your thoughts on leadership and gratitude?
So I'm glad you asked that question. So I usually close out my meetings or I'll do a partner retreat, we'll close it out with the power of gratitude and appreciation. When we show gratitude or appreciation for others, it's like one of the highest levels of emotions we can have as human beings. And if it's authentic and it's real, it resonates with the people you're leading. So not drive-bys, not an email, right? But actually, getting, physically close to them, talk to them, acknowledge them, have a real conversation with them around what it is you appreciate in that moment is really, really important. And I think, if you're in a place of gratitude, I had one client who was having some tough issues personally. And my advice to him was, look, I want you to, in the morning, and a lot of people, you hear this a lot, right? But in the morning, this is what I want you to do. Write down 3 things you're grateful for when you wake up. At the end of the day, before you go to sleep at night, write down 3 things you're grateful for that happened during the day. And do that for 30 days. And just watch yourself. What happens to you? Like, does your mood change over those 30 days? Do you have a different perspective on things? We can get caught up in, woe is me, or, I'm not getting the recognition I deserve, whatever it might be, or things aren't going right. But if you just step back and say, I'm really grateful. It could be small things. I'm grateful for the sunshine today, right? I'm grateful for, my grandchild in my case, right? So just things in your life that you're grateful for, that sense of gratitude. And it's kind of a reset for yourself emotionally and spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Mental health is so important these days, right? So just being in that, finding what's the good around you and being gratitude around that will shift your focus. And so it's so important to also express that gratitude in terms of appreciation for your employees in the moment, when it's real, and make it real.
No, I love that. I've been doing a little bit of reading on the power and science of gratitude. And it's amazing when you start reading about it. I mean, when you just think of it naturally, right? The more you look for positive in your life, the more you'll find.
Exactly.
And it sort of reminds you like how much good we all have in our lives. Obviously there are people that don't have easy lives, but we should all be pretty thankful that we do have, even half decent lives for all the gratitude that we have, and it makes a big difference. And I know when you're showing gratitude to your team, true gratitude, it makes a big difference. They feel way more connected. They feel like they can work harder for that person because they understand that person cares. So I think it's a very powerful tool in life and leadership.
Absolutely. And I think, that's an important point, caring. You have to care about other people, right? If you don't be in a leadership role, go work for yourself, right? You got to care about other people and, just flip the script a little bit. So recall in your life when someone showed a level of appreciation or gratitude to you. It was something really small, right? And what difference did that make for you?
Yeah. John, there's a lot of people stepping into their first leadership role today, right? They're being thrust into it. Maybe they're pretty new to their career or it's the first time it's happening for them. What is a piece of advice or a key focus area for those new leaders that they should be looking at and working on?
I love that question. I was in New York leading a retreat recently, last month, with 70 partners and principals. And I was at the dinner table or lunch, it was maybe at lunchtime. And one of the partners asked me, he was relatively new to the firm, and he's leading a particular segment of the firm, business line. And he said, what advice do you have? And I write a lot about this. And what I just said was, do you know all the people that are working for you? Go spend time with each person individually if you can. Build relationships with them. Understand what they're facing and what they're going through, right? Understand the lay of the land in terms of how things work in that particular service line. Don't show up with a bunch of ideas right off the bat. Listen to everybody. Listen. Learn from them. Then you can make some decisions down the road. I like to call it like the first 100 days. Like a lot of leaders say about the first 100 days, we're going to do this, right? One of my clients just recently was thrust into the managing partner role, and unexpectedly. And I said, let's focus on your first 100 days. Who do you have a relationship with? Who do you not have a relationship with? Because now as the leader, you're not just responsible for your business line, you're responsible for everybody. So build relationships in the key roles that you need to build them. Spend time with them. Be visible, right? And just listen. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody. You're not going to have all the answers, and you shouldn't have all the answers. A lot of times the answers are going to come from the people that work with you, especially the people that have been doing the day-to-day for quite some period of time. They have a lot of knowledge built up, and I think that's useful knowledge to learn. So listen, give it some time, meet people, build relationships, and listen intently.
Yeah, great advice. John, you shared a ton with us today, and I've learned so much about you. But I always like to put in a little bit, anything in your personal life that you'd like to share with people outside of what you already have, that they get a better sense of who you are on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'll share real quick. I had a life event that happened a few years ago where my heart stopped. It's happened about 6 years ago. And my heart stopped. And luckily, there was someone there who was expert in CPR and saved my life. And coming out of that, I survived all that. No heart damage, just like right to stop, but not a heart attack per se. But spent some time reflecting and some time to recover, right? About, well, why am I still here? What's my purpose? About 2 years later, I was holding my little baby grandson. He was about a couple months old, and I was holding him in my arms. I looked down and I said, okay, now I know what my purpose is. To be here for him, to help him grow up as a man, and also to connect and continue to help leaders in the business world as well. And really just focusing on how can I be the best leader, right? How can I really live my life to its fullest potential as a leader in accounting profession or whatever profession it might be. And the little secret is, being vulnerable. I think sometimes we associate a negative with vulnerability, but it's really powerful. Mm-hmm. It allows you to open up. It allows you to listen, allows you to grow with a growth mindset. And so I would just say that just connecting with my purpose as a result in connection with that event really has made a big difference. And I'm loving what I do now. I revel in it, and I just love helping leaders be at their best.
Well, thanks for sharing that, John. I am personally very thankful that it was a positive outcome. Every interaction I've ever had with you has been extremely positive, and I know I walk away a better person having spent a little bit of time with you. So I'm very appreciative for everything you do, everything you share, and I know people are going to enjoy this conversation. So thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, Zane. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and share some of my life's experiences with you and your audience.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And with that, we ended another Project Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Project Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence, embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Project Conversations.